Hey, what's going on, guys? This is Mios, and today I'm actually going to be showing you 5 common, really huge misplays that I see a lot of people do and that people can actually avoid quite easily. But before you start, friendly reminder to like and subscribe because it motivates me a lot to keep making videos like these. And yeah, let's jump right into it. So for misplay number 1, it's basically chaining DD Crow to the activation of Miscellaneous Aurus's in-hand effect, and I'm going to explain to you why this is a huge problem. So let's just say out of nowhere your opponent goes Miscellaneous Aurus. Obviously it's an effect that can only be used during the main phase. If you chain DD Crow to this Miscellaneous Aurus, what you're actually doing is giving a window of opportunity for your opponent to chain another Miscellaneous Aurus, which pretty much ensures them that they can use the graveyard effect to banish and summon, you know, Archosaur from the deck, and that's actually really bad. So that's exactly what's going to happen. However, what you have to know about Miscellaneous Aurus is that, a little bit like Dark Hole and Regeki, it fits under the category of you're not allowed to use the card if it doesn't actually achieve a purpose. So if there's no monsters on the field, you can't just go Dark Hole. And Miscellaneous Aurus, if your monsters are already unaffected by dinosaur monsters, so if the Miscellaneous Aurus already resolved fully, you're not allowed to just use another one. So in other words, what I'm trying to say is, if that first Miscellaneous Aurus resolved, and then you DD Crow'd on the resolution, then the second Miscellaneous Aurus is actually a dead card in your hand, and you cannot use its effect in this main phase. So that would force the opponent to go into battle phase and then main phase 2, and then use Miscellaneous Aurus, banish, summon Jewel Beast, and then play from there if that is the way he was intended to unbrick. But this is actually a huge misplay. Please don't DD Crow on the activation of Miscellaneous Aurus, just DD Crow on the resolution. So after the chain link, just to make sure that they can't sack you with the second one. So that's pretty much it for this one. Let's get into misplay number 2. Alright, so for misplay number 2, do you see something wrong here? Actually, yeah, now do you see something wrong? I'll give you maybe 3 seconds. 1, 2, 3. Okay, I lost my patience already. So basically, I have a Burl Savage that has 2 equip spells and Dragon Buster Destruction Sword equipped to it. Now, if you don't really have too much experience with Yu-Gi-Oh, you might not really understand why this is a huge misplay, but the reason why it is because this is a negate. It's a precious card that you don't really want to lose, and on top of that, it's actually protecting a card that stops your opponent from summoning from the extra deck. So in other words, if you get Kaiju'd, you lose 2 interruptions. And this is exactly what actually can happen if you are not careful, because what you could have done is actually play around the possibility of losing 2 interruptions in one shot simply by targeting another dragon or dark monster you control with Union Carrier and equip it with Dragon Buster Destruction Sword. In this instance, I had the already powerful Levianeer, so why did I go away and target the Burl Savage? It makes no sense. And even if it was like a weaker monster like Pisty, without the ability to access your extra deck, your opponent might already struggle. So, you know, there are always compromises to everything, but if you target your Burl Savage with Union Carrier, well, you seriously are playing with fire. But what I would do in a real competitive game would definitely to target my Levianeer. So if my opponent Kaiju's Burl Savage, I still have Levianeer equipped with the Buster Destruction Sword. But if my Levianeer gets Kaiju'd, kind of looks awkward. Like, when's the last time you saw someone Kaiju a Levianeer? The only reason why they would do that, of course, is to get rid of the quote-unquote domain lock. And, you know, once they do that, well, you still have a Burl Savage. So you know what I'm trying to say. And yeah, it's just as simple as that. Just equip your monster, you equip your Buster Lock to another monster than Burl Savage. Anyways, misplay number 3 now. Alright, so this is misplay number 3, and this one I actually see a lot. But this play is mathematically incorrect to do in this sequence, and I'm going to show you right now. So, in case I have Scarlet and Conquistador, a lot of people, what they would do in case they are met with something like a Neptibus, something that they kind of have a bit more time to handle than a card that is like continuous, like a card that actually has to resolve the moment it's activated. Neptibus, it kind of can resolve at any time once it is summoned. But in this instance, actually the correct play to do would be to activate like Scarlet first, and then in case you don't get Ashed, use Conquistador. But in this situation, what like the misplay that I notice a lot is that people go Conquistador Chainlink 1 and Scarlet Chainlink 2, and since you're already committing to Conquistador and Chainlink 1, you're not allowed to say like, oh no, never mind, I don't want to use Conquistador all of a sudden since I see that you ashed my Scarlet. So because of that, you have to commit 1 extra card on the field. You give information to your opponent, you kind of start losing out, and it's not a really good move. And another, like, I guess a reverse mentality to that is also a misplay would be to Scarlet on standby, but then what you're doing is that you're giving the opportunity of your opponent to either Regek you, Kaiju you, Book of Moon you, and in case you actually did the move that I just did right now, the only things you really lose to that the other move didn't do, like the Conquistador Chainlink 1, like Scarlet Chainlink 2 move, is actually something very sketch like Book of Moon or is it Offerings to the Doom? The quick play spell that destroys a monster but skips your next draw phase? Something like that. Yeah, and it's not Tribute to the Doom, so it has to be Offerings. The card that was played in Cosmo back in the days. So that's the only way, literally, you can lose to this move. Yeah, I mean, it's sketch and it doesn't really come up too often, but this is mathematically correct. So use Scarlet first and then Conquistador. So this would actually still be face down. Your opponent might actually be a little bit more scared, and you could time this like a little better. So yeah, just something that you have to keep in mind. But anyways, let's get into the next misplay. Alright, so this is actually a really trigger happy misplay, but I can understand why people do it. It's, you know, sometimes you give like an opportunity to your opponent to actually activate a card and they would be like, yeah, of course, but without really thinking of the drawbacks. And it's funny because in this situation, you could actually really take advantage of the cards that you have in your hand thanks to your trap card, but since you're getting Harpy's Feather Duster, not really. So if you get Duster here, what do you do? Huh? Do you actually activate Scarlet? Now, what you have to remember is that Harpy's Feather Duster is a really good card in OTK-based strategies, especially if you're going first, like, I mean, especially in a game 1. So if you get Dustered, more often than not, your opponent will actually try to OTK you. So what are you really prioritizing? You being able to use your Phantasme Nibiru, or just summoning, like, a vanilla monster that has 2800 defense, does nothing, and turn off all of your hand traps? I think the most logical move is just to let Scarlet die and actually keep your 2 hand traps. I mean, obviously it's up to 2 hand traps, but you understand what I'm trying to say. And in this situation, of course, there's no way I can summon, like, I can resist to like Deep Sea into like Neptibus, Pop, Eldritch, and then OTK me. But if I actually didn't chain Scarlet, what would have happened is that I would have Nibiru'd him and potentially Phantasmate him. Of course, I would have been able to survive. And then next turn, this is actually a really good resource, and I can still play from there. So really, really huge misplay that can cost you a game entirely. And the reason why I said that you can take advantage of this is that, you know, just like Orchest, when they had Babel and like Orchest Nightmare, like Harper or Skeleton in the Grave, what they could do is actually use the effect and then on a, like as a Chainlink, sorry, it's actually Nibiru as a Chainlink 1 and then Chainlink 2 the effect of an Orchest, because it actually prevents you from special summoning non-machines, non-machines for the rest of the turn. And of course Nibiru is just obviously not a machine monster, so you won't be able to special summon it, but it still fully resolves to tribute everything. So you just keep a Nibiru from in your hand and you can kind of loop it, and it's the same principle with, I guess, like Scarlet, White Fate. Black Awakening doesn't count because it's a normal spell. You can't really use it during your opponent's turn, but yeah, Scarlet and White Fate. Anyways, let's get into the 5th and final misplay. Alright, this isn't really much of a misplay, but it's something that people think is an illegal move or don't know how to, I guess, judge whether you're doing a legal move or a legal move. And this is a comment that I've been seeing way too much, and I just want to demystify it or whatever. I don't even know the word. I want to clear this once and for all so I stop seeing this comment completely. A lot of people just don't understand what missing the timing means in Yu-Gi-Oh! What they think is that if your card is a when you can effect, it cannot be Chainlink 2 or higher because you would miss timing since another card is Chainlink 1. So no, Tour Guide and Kagemusha obviously does not miss timing. Obviously it doesn't. That's just the dumbest thing to think ever, and the reason for that is because, let's just say I had a bunch of Yang Zings on the field and I get Regeki'd. According to your logic, only the first Yang Zing will trigger and the 4 others will just get vanished into like an alternate time space. What? That makes absolutely no sense. Multiple when you can effects can actually trigger at the same time, and it has nothing to do with missing the timing, and I will explain to you what missing the timing actually is very clearly in a couple of seconds. So in this situation, of course, you're talking about trigger effects, so cards that actually allow you to organize your chain links, and when we're talking about trigger effects, there's no really window in between your effects that you're declaring that your opponent is allowed to interrupt. So you can't just go, okay, tour guide chain link 1, do you want to do anything? No, okay, Kagemusha like chain link 2. That's not actually how it works. In the OCG, it's different because trigger effects are kind of like quick effects sometimes, so it's different, but not always. But for the instance of Kagemusha, yes, this is why on EDO Pro, they can ash your tour guide even if you have Kagemusha, so it's kind of stupid, but yeah. They really can't do anything about this in the TCGs though. So you would go Chainlink 1 Tour Guide, Chainlink 2 Kagemusha. Doesn't matter if they're optional 1 effects. So this is going to resolve fully, no problem. And I'm going to show you actually an instance where Tour Guide being an optional 1 effect will miss the timing. So I can't honestly think of really Yu-Gi-Oh cards that would miss the timing, but there is one card that's currently on the ban list that would make Tour Guide miss timing, and that card is Ultimate Offering, which allows you to normal summon during either player's turn by paying, I believe, 500 life points. And the reason why that could miss timing is because for an optional 1 effect card to successfully resolve, it has to be the last thing to happen. And since Tour Guide in this instance was indeed the last thing to happen, it could resolve no problem. So why would Kagemusha Knight miss timing since it follows the exact same pattern? The requirement is when you normal summon a level 3 monster. Tour Guide is when this card is normal summoned. They have the exact same requirement. None of them can miss timing, but let's just say I'm going into battle phase. I'm using like an ignition, that is an ignition effect. It's a quick effect. And I'm chaining something that allows me to instantly normal summon. In this situation, it's a Rivals. I really could have used Ultimate Offering. It would have been the exact same. And I will be normal summoning my Tour Guide immediately now. So look at this. Everything resolves. Tour Guide never had the opportunity to use its effect. Friendly reminder that Tour Guide is not actually once per turn. Kagemusha Knight also isn't once per turn. I really, made sure I would actually take the perfect example for this. And the reason why Tour Guide this time actually does miss the timing is because Tour Guide wasn't actually the last thing to happen when it was normal summoned. The last thing to happen was shooting Toad Talker saying, I activate my effect. And because of that, you get cooked. And if I could actually give another would be when you synchro summon Trishula as an inherent option, like an inherent synchro summon, you obviously cannot miss timing, but if it is actually part of a chain, well, you could or could not miss timing. So let's just say you're using Formula Synchron to synchro summon into Trishula, just like that, on Chainlink 1, on open game state, on resolution of something. Your Trishula, yeah, sure, it was summoned like as a chain, it wasn't inherent, but it's still not going to, it's not, wait, hold on. Yeah, it obviously cannot be striked, well, if you don't use the effect, but it's going to trigger successfully if you want to. However, if your opponent goes something like activate Upstart, and then you chain Formula Synchron to summon Trishula, your Trishula does not trigger because of the Upstart actually cucking you. So, yeah, anyways, I just hope I was able to clarify something for a lot of you guys, because it's just draining me a lot when I see, oh yeah, but Kagemusha, doesn't, it actually misses time on Tour Guide. Obviously not true. And I hope I was able to prove it very well. So if you guys have any more comments or feedback or whatever, let me know in the comment section below. Don't forget to like, subscribe, blah, 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 and I'll see you very, very soon. Peace.